It's interesting to just follow the past 48 hours of the Republican Party, a view of which are an important part in it. You've got McConnell versus Trump and the search for an identity. You know how the media frames it. So, I mean, what should Trump do next as we head into the midterms and head into a new cycle?
A couple different things. That's the first. I did not see the president was on TV today. I wasn't aware he was going to be on there. I don't know if it was pre-scheduled because we didn't. I think
no, it wasn't. Yeah.
Passing was sort of not unexpected, but didn't know it was going to happen today. By the way, what you just heard, Kevin, is real and sincere. The president had a real affinity for Rush Limbaugh. I've played golf with a gentleman, with both of them together many times, and the president really, really liked Rush. And the Rush liked the president. They got along great. They love politics, and they love media, and they love golf. So there was a real affinity between those two guys. It's nice to listen to the president talk like that because not everybody always got a chance to see that side of the president. That is a sincere type of emotion that you don't get a chance to see oftentimes when you go to a rally or something like that. So I'm glad to see.
Well, and it's a very different tone. It's a very different tone than the statement he released yesterday about Mitch McConnell.
So you asked me a question: is what does he need to do more of that? Because that's again, I'm just listening to it for the first time, but that's the president that I knew. Certainly the beat up on McConnell stuff. That's the president as well. There's no question about it. But I think everybody recognizes that. I don't think enough people recognize that what they saw today, or what you just heard from President Trump about Rush Limbaugh, is the president as well.
Hey, Mick, this is Rick Davis. I do want to take the opportunity to follow up, though, on a point that Kevin just made about there's another guy who got some treatment by Donald Trump yesterday. And you're right. Yeah. I mean, if it could only all be like today, we'd be great. But his other close partner, who doesn't play golf, but who passed a historic number of conservative judges into the judiciary all around the country, an incredible legacy for both gentlemen. Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump have a feud going on, and I'm curious how you see that shaping the party. I mean, is this going to play out in 2022 primaries?
Let's look at it this way. I'll put my Republican partisan hat on. I'm not in an administration anymore. I'm not elected. I'm a private citizen. But let me put my Republican hat on here for a second. I think one of the things that I hope that we've learned out of the 2020 election was that politics is a game of addition, not subtraction. What do I mean by that? There's a really good chance that we lost Arizona because of the personal vendetta against John McCain. I'm not sure what we gained by that, but I'm pretty sure what we lost by that. Fast forward to today, I'm not sure what the president gains and what the party gains by attacking Mitch McConnell. I understand what he might lose. There might be folks who like Mitch McConnell who now are going to wonder, wait a second, do I have to pick between Mitch McConnell and the president? And that doesn't add anybody to the base. It doesn't add anybody to the president's side of the ledger. It doesn't add anybody to the Republican side of the ledger. So listen, I get it. And the president's the president. And, he always used to tell me when I'd give him advice like this, he'd raise his eyebrow and say, so tell me, Mick, have you been elected president of the United States? I'm like, no, Mr. President, I have not.
Yeah, it's a good card to play.
He got where he is being himself. But, maybe we look back at the examples of such things as Arizona and ask ourselves, okay, how do we vent our frustrations and have family discussions about things we disagree with without turning people off?
Well, listen, I got to be honest here, and we are going to get to policy, but I spoke to a previous administration official earlier today from the Trump administration, and the source asked me not to use the name, and you can roll your eyes at that if you're listening. I get it. But then I spoke to another source who's been talking to the president throughout this down in Mar-a-Lago. And both of these people are telling me that he has his eye on the potential California runoff. And the RNC has already poured something like $250,000 into a recall for Governor Gavin Newsom. Mick, all of the players here. The current RNC makeup and where the RNC is at right now. I mean, is this something that is openly being discussed, or is this just a long shot Republican fantasy, the way that Democrats try to get Texas? But do Republicans actually have a shot at taking the governorship back from California?
By the way, when you started saying that, I was thinking to myself, "Oh my goodness, are you telling me that Donald Trump is thinking about running for governor of California?"
That's what I thought. I was about ready to hit the panic button.
That would be fantastic, by the way. And I wonder how long it takes to establish. He owns a home out there. He owns a piece of property, so I don't know. But let's assume for a second we're not talking about Donald Trump running for governor of California.
We're not.
Which is fascinating, by the way. So let's say Rick Grinnell, for example, a friend of mine, good supporter of the president's, was our ambassador to Germany and then our acting director of national intelligence. Great candidate. I think one of the things. I think the conventional wisdom was that Newsom was weak and he might be recalled, but that he might retain the governorship after the recall because there was no Republican to sort of rally around. Remember, the ballot out there is two questions on one ballot. Should you recall Newsom in question one? And then if so, who would you vote for in number two? So it's all done at the same time. And the reason that the Republicans were able to steal this election away, or that governorship away from Gray Davis, 10 years ago or so, was because they had a big name. They had Arnold Schwarzenegger as a Republican on that long list. We don't have that right now. If Rick Grinnell gets in, you might have it, because not only is Rick formidable in his own right, credible in his own right, he would absolutely bring the full backing of Donald Trump into that race, and that would be fascinating.
This is how I know I'm a political junkie, talking to two political junkies, because you've got Peter Thiel out there, you've got the water emissions scandal, the water issue, emissions issue, big tech. I mean, and California politics. I mean, I'm telling you, folks, that is the story to watch if those signatures go through. And we'll know in about 3 weeks whether or not there's going to be a recall effort in California. All right, let me ask you about the stimulus, Mick Mulvaney, because you are one of the founding members of the House Freedom Caucus, and you were a member of the House Financial Services Committee. You were a political wonk, as I recall, back in your days in Congress, and $1.9 trillion. And now they're talking about infrastructure spending. Is that too much money? Can we afford it?
Yeah, and you forgot OMB director, which is really what
OMB, OMB and CFPB. Go ahead, Mick. I'm sorry, your resume's too long.
No, but you don't get to be the budget director by wanting to spend money. I mean, that is the position that people get put in that position so you can say no to people. Well, let me answer your question. Is it too much money? The better answer, my gut instinct is yes, it is too much. But the real answer, I think, if I'm being honest with myself, is no one knows. No one knows. We have moved well beyond all of the economic forecasting models. Anybody who tells you, that they know what's going to happen are just guessing at this point. The debt numbers are so huge, both in terms of the raw dollars and the percentage of GDP, the percentage of the overall economy, percentage of national income, for example. We are really engaging in an experiment with our economy and with the world economy. I do wish that there was some more caution and some more sort of conservative, with a small c, approach to this. Keep in mind that I don't think all the money from the first stimulus package has been spent yet. It may be, but as of a couple of weeks ago or months ago, it was not. So, I mean, we don't have any idea what all this is doing. I do know this, is that if I had a dime for every time I had a Democrat tell me how many jobs they could create by government spending, I could pay off the debt. I heard that Joe Biden was saying today that $2 trillion would create 7 million jobs. By the way, the return on that is not very good if you do the math. But it's this urgency to spend money that I just don't get. And I think what it is, it's not economics. It goes back to Rahm Emanuel's don't let a crisis go to waste. Most of this money is not going to be stimulus money. Most of this money is going to be money to Democrat causes. They're paying their political debts, and they're using COVID as an excuse to do it. Certainly, some of the money will get to folks who need it. But my guess is a year on from now, you'll be hearing story after story after story about the next Solyndra and the next fraud and all of the money that went to all of these huge Democrat operations. So, but that's Washington. That's politics. There are no fiscal conservatives left for the most part in Washington, D.C., or at least not nearly enough to change a vote. So we're going to continue down this experiment together.
Mick, if I was interviewing Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, here's a question that I would ask her, and I'll ask this to you. Heather Long in the Washington Post I mentioned this earlier in the program, has a brilliant article. Its headline, "Millions of jobs probably aren't coming back even after the pandemic ends. And she actually quotes from the fourth quarter of last year, Fed Chairman Jay Powell saying, the economy is going to come back. I'm paraphrasing, but it's coming back in a different location, and it's going to be a different type of economy. Heather Long reports in the Post, millions of jobs, mostly low-skilled, likely won't come back even after the pandemic ends. The U.S. needs to invest heavily in retraining, economists say, yet the $1.9 trillion bill has $0 for retraining. I mean, as we talk about the gig economy and, you know, the startups out in Silicon Valley who have made it easier for there to be online businesses and small businesses. Front page of the Wall Street Journal today shows the chart skyrocketing American hustle of small businesses really increasing during this in the last couple of months. I mean, don't we owe it to the American people to be honest with them that all this money that we're going to pass in terms of stimulus is really just a Band-Aid on a bullet hole?
There's a bunch of things in there, Kevin. First things first. What's the question I would ask Janet Yellen? It is a question I don't think anybody's asked yet, which is, who does inflation hurt more? Does it hurt the poor more? Does it hurt the rich more? The answer, by the way, and she knows the answer, is that it hurts the poor more. It hurts the elderly more. It hurts the folks that all the Democrats say they are wanting to help. And as we move towards this risk of inflation hanging over the economy, no one is talking about who is going to pay the price for that. Inflation is a tax on the middle class and the lower class, and everybody's afraid to talk about it because the Fed knows that it's coming, and they're afraid to do anything about it because they can't be against the politics of spending money to boost COVID. Listen, there's a lot of things we could say about small business. I've started two of them now. We're starting our hedge fund without an office. It's great now. It's a tremendous time to have this opportunity in small business because it's so much cheaper to start a business right now. So it doesn't surprise me. But to your larger point about jobs not coming back, look, my Democrat friends are famous for telling us how jobs don't come back. I mean, Obama spent 4 years saying that manufacturing jobs weren't going to come back, and they did under Donald Trump, simply because the policies changed. So no, I don't agree that those low-skilled jobs necessarily go away. If they go away, they'll go away for the right reasons, which is because folks found better things to do. But I think it's wrong to be able to say, well, the government's going to decide which jobs are going to go away, and therefore we need to retrain people to where we think the next jobs are going to be. Don't forget, guys, and I know I'm talking long and I apologize, we're the lowest.
It's radio. It's radio.
Yeah,
we can do that. No sound bites. Go ahead. Yeah.
The lowest rates of unemployment across the board, the lowest rates for Black Americans, women, you name it, okay? And we had it without inflation because of the supply-side economics of the previous administration. We know how to do this. I heard a story today that the Federal Reserve is talking about focusing on racial equity in unemployment. And you try to figure out a way to use monetary policy to lower the spread between white unemployment and African-American unemployment. And then some economists got out there and said, well, actually, we had that. We had it in 2019. December 2019, the spread was maybe 100 basis points between white and black unemployment. We had it because of the policies of the Trump administration. And we didn't have it because of government intervention. I'm sorry. That's way too long, and I apologize. I get off my soapbox.
It's music to my ears, Mick, because anytime you can reflect upon Jack Kemp and supply-side economics, it makes me a happy man. But arguably one of the missed opportunities that leads right into what you were saying is of the Trump administration was infrastructure. I mean, talk about a time who really had an opportunity there, but maybe focused a little bit on energy, since that seems to be a big issue right now. I mean, as you said, no good crisis misses an opportunity. And do we need a Marshall Plan for energy infrastructure in America as a component of our growth plan coming into the future? I think the Texas situation has really showcased some lack of resourcefulness here.
Yeah, I don't know enough about why Texas is suffering for what it is. If there's something structural there, so I don't want to speak to Texas because I try really hard not to talk about things I don't know that much about. I know I fail in that miserably from time to time. But do we need a Marshall Plan? No, we don't. Energy was never cheaper than it was, 18 months ago, because we had the right policies. You don't have to have the government come in and say, okay, yes, you get some money and you get some money and you don't get any money, and expect that to get anything except making people who are politically connected rich. I don't know why we haven't learned that lesson with so many opportunities to have seen it during our lifetimes. So no, I think we continue to do what we've done before. We've got some, you put out some common sense environmental policies. That's great. You let innovation flourish. Keep in mind, one of the reasons that electric vehicles have done so well is that it's relatively unregulated. We've allowed innovation in that industry. One of the reasons fracking did so well was that it was relatively unregulated at the outset. So there's a formula here, and none of the formulas point you towards, oh my goodness, we need a Marshall Plan to do this. Go back to infrastructure for a second. I'll tell you, I'm sorry I forgot about that, which is this. Listen, we all want more roads. We all want better bridges. We want better airports. I get all that, okay? It's a lousy stimulus program. It takes way too long. The reason we could not get a stimulus package passed under the Trump administration was that one of the things we insisted on was clearing the decks of a lot of the regulatory burden for building a road. Okay, it doesn't take 4 years to build a bridge. It takes maybe 6 months, 10 months. Not a big bridge, but an ordinary bridge, say, across a freeway. Okay, it takes you a couple months to build that. But when you layer on top of that actual construction time, all of the permitting time and environmental regulations and all of the things that government makes them do, it takes a lot longer to get those things built. For that reason, it's a lousy stimulus because you want stimulus to be quick. You want money to flow out of the government coffers and get into the economy. You can't do that with infrastructure. So the Democrats are never going to change the environmental restrictions. They made that clear to us. It's why we could not pass an infrastructure bill under the Trump administration. And my guess is that's not going to change. So, yes, the Democrats will say we need infrastructure as part of a stimulus program. But, again, that's just not letting a crisis go to waste.
Mick, I'm going to ask you to help me out for my reporting prep for my job on the Hill tomorrow, because Robinhood is testifying. Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev is going to be appearing before your old home, the House Financial Services Committee. He says, quote, any allegation, this is according to the testimony just released in the last couple of hours, any allegation that Robinhood acted to help hedge funds or other special interests to the detriment of our customers is absolutely false and market distorting rhetoric. Trading limits we put in place on GameStop and other stocks were necessary to allow us to continue to meet the clearinghouse deposit requirements. All right, you just started a hedge fund. What do you make of this GameStop Robinhood issue?
Yeah, I think, by the way, that everything he just said is absolutely true. And it's not going to help him a bit. Keep in mind, I have been in those chairs, in those hearings. I've been on both sides of the equations, right? I've been asking the questions, and then I have been in the hot seat, getting my teeth kicked in for 6 hours by Elizabeth Warren. This is not about facts tomorrow. The facts are on everything I've been able to see, and I've done a little bit of research on it. All of the facts seem to be on Robinhood's side. In fact, if they wanted to take the next step, that's a good statement. The next step is we were only doing what Dodd-Frank made us do. Okay, that's actually true. Everything I think you just read is 100% accurate. Whether or not you can convey that in a way that members of Congress and just as importantly the public understand is going to be really, really hard. More importantly,
let me interrupt because I want to push you on this. What do you mean? Dive into the weeds. This is the piece of real estate to do it. Dive into the weeds here. What do you mean Dodd-Frank caused or elaborate?
I think the DTCC stuff is some of the capital requirements were changed in Dodd-Frank, and they were following the rules. DTCC did exactly what they were supposed to do. Robinhood did exactly what they're supposed to do. They're following the regulatory regime that the federal government created in order to protect the integrity of the markets. One of the reasons they had to restrict trading was because if they didn't, they had a chance that their system might collapse. And that's what Dodd-Frank and the regulatory system is designed, supposedly, to prevent, which is structural or systemic risks to the system. Okay? So my understanding of this is that it worked exactly the way it's supposed to work. Somehow, Robinhood did something that they were absolutely required to do. They had very little discretion in, if any, and they managed to upset both Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jeff Duncan. For those of you who are listening who don't know who Jeff Duncan is as far to the right probably as AOC is to the left. He's a friend of mine from South Carolina, and is about as right-wing conservative as you can possibly get. And he wrote a letter excoriating Robinhood for what they did during the issues they had a couple of weeks back. So there's not a lot of bipartisanship right now in Washington, guys. Being against Robinhood is one of them, and I'm really looking forward to watching the hearing tomorrow. It should make for some good drama.
Go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
That's all right. Hey, Mick, I wanted to follow up on that a little bit because obviously this is going to be quite a story tomorrow, and this is your backyard. How do you think the different agencies that are looking into this, DOJ, CFTC, there are a lot of different organizations. Kevin does a much better job of throwing out all these acronyms than I'm ever going to do. But is there any fire there? I mean, you've looked into it a little bit. If it's not Robinhood, and I think your case is exactly right, well made, then what is it? Is there anything other than just the markets corrected themselves at a time when there were a lot of exposed positions and it's time to move on? Or is it time for some different regulatory formats?
I mean,
and quickly, we got like 30 seconds. Go ahead, Mick. 30 seconds.
What are the rules? The rules are designed to have people, distort the markets, oftentimes with illegal or false information. I did not see that happening here. We have short squeezes all the time. Has it been different now because it's sort of this retail short squeeze as opposed to large institutional players? Yes. But at its heart, this seems to be a market functioning properly. And what you saw is a traditional short squeeze just through sort of different non-traditional means.